This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Opsgenie by Atlassian. With Opsgenie, your next incident doesn't stand a chance. Visit Opsgenie.com for your free account. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, as we wind down 2018, head into 2019, we like to check in with some of our friends, see what they're up to, see what they're going to be up to. And that's exactly why I have Mike Schmitz back to talk about his new gig. But I'll let him tell us what it is. Mike, welcome. It's good to see you.
Hey, thanks, Chuck. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm delighted to have you here because I'm a fan of your work. I know a lot of my viewers and listeners are fans of your work. And so I want to make sure they know that you have a brand new thing going this year, or it's already started, but definitely moving into 2019 with a lot of new activities. So what is the new project?
Yeah, the new project is called Faith-Based Productivity, and it started off as a video course, but it's kind of evolving into more of a personal brand. I don't really like that term, but I don't know. It's kind of my thing, So I've got a kind of unique perspective to productivity, and without getting too specific or religious, I am a Christian, and that basically is the spiritual why behind all the productivity things. Now, regardless of your personal belief system, I do think that solves a major problem that a lot of people have with productivity and achieving goals, is that there's not a strong enough why behind your actions. And so kind of the tagline that I came up with, and really my goal, is to help people connect to their calling, discover their destiny, and live the life they were created for. And so we've got the course. I've got a couple other things that I'm doing, a workshop, which, we can talk about whatever you want there. But I've been working hard on that, and I'm launching it, at the end of this year is kind of like the pre-launch phase, and beginning next year, it's going to be in full swing. And the timing there, I think, is kind of, I didn't really pick it, but it lines up, because I read a statistic recently that 92%, according to University of Scranton, 92% of people are going to fail with their New Year's resolutions. When I read that, I got more upset than I probably should have. It kind of made me angry because, one of the more impactful books I ever read was Die Empty by Todd Henry. And he's got a really powerful story in there that he tells about a conversation he had with a friend who asked him, where do you think the most valuable land in the world is? And so he throws out the oil fields in Saudi Arabia, real estate in Manhattan, and his friend's like, no, it's the graveyard, because that's where all the unwritten books, the unfounded businesses, all the things that people said, I'll get to that tomorrow, and eventually they ran out of tomorrows. That's the same thing with the New Year's resolutions, I think, is that you don't have a strong enough why, you don't take action on your thing, and then maybe you never get to it, and that's a shame. So I want to help people change their course.
Wow, there's a lot there. First of all, I by your description, you have a lot of ambition about the new project, and I love that fact. I love the fact that I know you said you're not a fan of personal brands, but at the same time, I love the fact that you're kind of flying your own flag now, and that's great. You are not encumbered by anybody else's restrictions or judgments or focuses. Now you can just do what you want to do. So that's great. Would you look down on me if I told you I don't make New Year's resolutions because that way I can't fail at them?
No, that makes you smart.
I like the way you think. No, that you're right. I mean, New Year's resolutions, it's really gotten to be a bit of a joke that, how quickly am I going to break them? Is it going to be in the first hour?
Yeah.
In the first week? And so it is kind of sad that people set themselves up for that and almost create those negative expectations.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's a system that's working against them. I mean, let's just use exercise as an example, because that's the one that a lot of people probably personally identify with. It's like, this is the year I'm going to get in shape. Okay. I go to the gym several times a week, and I can tell you at the beginning of January, it's hard to find a machine, but 3 weeks later, like, it's all cleared out. It's like clockwork, and it's because people set these goals of, I want to lose 15 pounds. Okay. And you go to the gym for a couple of weeks and you put forth a lot of effort, and it feels good when you do it. But after a couple of weeks, you don't see the progress. And so you're like, oh, I've only lost a pound, and that was a lot of work. So this is just not worth it. And then you stop going. But the real way to accomplish those goals is not to say, I want to lose 15 pounds, but I want to establish this habit going into the new year. I'm just going to go to the gym 3 times a week, or I'm just going to run twice a week. That's kind of how I started. Last year, I ran my first half marathon, 13.1 miles, as somebody who hated running. When I started training, I could barely do 2 miles at like a 10-minute pace. And I ran my half marathon. I think I finished it at an 8-minute, 24-second pace. So I beat my goal of 8.5. But it was just showing up every day and doing the things. And James Clear in his book Atomic Habits talks about it. Every time you do the thing that you want to do, the habit that you want to create, if it's a good behavior, or stop doing the thing if it's a negative behavior, you're casting a vote for the type of person that you want to become. Cast enough votes, you win the election. You start to believe like, hey, I am a runner. Hey, I am a fitness. What's the term? Like a fanatic. I don't know. Not really a fanatic, but like I am the type of person who goes to the gym a couple of weeks. I am the type of person who can show up every day and write and eventually publish a book. Whatever it is that you want to do, that's the way to get there, is to break it down into the little things that you can do every day, and then be consistent and don't break the chain.
Yeah, I don't know who said it, but somebody that I've always kind of really appreciated the fact that half the battle is just showing up.
Yeah,
just if you just show up, you're a huge chunk of the way there. And you're right. I love the story about the gyms, because that is true about so many things when it comes to New Year's resolutions. And they just don't last, because, and I'm a big fan of cost benefit. I can do just about anything, but is the cost worth it? And a lot of people, after that first week or two, and like you say, they lose a pound or something, they figure it's just not worth what it's costing me to do so. So
yeah, and really like the process that I outlined in one of the courses that I put together is called the Personal Retreat Handbook. So the Personal Retreat is something that I've done the last four quarters, where I've subscribed to the 12-week year framework, where you set your goals for 90 days and then you try to achieve those. And every 90 days, basically, you either make more progress than you thought you could, or it completely blew up and you have a chance to reset. Well, I did it for a long time and it was blowing up every time. And I was like, this isn't working. What can I do to fix this? So I started doing this concept of a personal retreat where I would get away just for a day to plan the next quarter. And there's a couple things that I do there. And it also ties back to the conversation about habits. Is like the first couple things that I did this exercise called the Mission to Mars, where if you were to, and a lot of this comes from like, this is a corporate exercise from Vernon Harnish's Rockefeller Habits, or Scaling Up, but I think it applies personally too. Like, what are your core values? If you were to take somebody from your team, your family, you personally, and they were going to go to an alien world and they were going to describe who you are, like, what would they say? What are the things that really identify you? And then once you identify, like, these are the things that I am, this is part of my nature, then you can kind of identify, like, well, where am I right now? So the next exercise I do is like the Wheel of Life, and you rate your current. And there's templates for all this stuff in the course. I've got like a PDF course workbook that goes along with it. You don't need the course workbook. I mean, none of this stuff is brand new. I just kind of outlined it and tweaked it and put together a system that works for me, but people can apply it however they want. But this Wheel of Life thing, this kind of shows you like, okay, so these are the different areas of my life. This comprises who I am. And these are the ones that I'm doing okay. And this is the one I want to fix. Okay, so that's the area that you set goals in. That's where you try to implement a new habit. You don't just go online and see, what do successful people do, and get a list of the 12 habits that they do every day and try to implement them all at once. That's a recipe for failure. But you find like one thing that you want to add, 1% better. That 1% better, if you got 1% better every day, that's going to compound to a lot more than the 365% over the year. One of my favorite stories is about the guy who invented the game of chess. And the story goes that he went to the ruler of the country where he lived, and he asked the man who invented the game of chess, what do you want as a reward? And he said, I want 1 grain of rice doubled for every square in the chessboard. Okay, so 1 for the first, 2 for the second, 4 for the third, 8 for the fourth, and so on. 64 squares on a chessboard. And the king initially was a little bit offended that he hadn't asked for more, but after a week, he asked the royal treasurer, "Did you pay the guy yet?" And he's like, "No, we don't have enough. It's like 9,000 trillion grains of rice." So it's those little things, that when you start doesn't seem like much, but when you stick with it, it compounds and it adds up to big results in the long run. You just got to be consistent.
Yeah. There's a similar story about golf that you play the first hole for a penny, hole for 2 cents, and pretty soon you're playing for real money.
Yep, exactly. But also having the why behind it, like that helps you show up every day. When you know what this is going to do for you, what pain point this is going to resolve, in the productivity space, as a lot of people talk about, you're motivated by two things: the avoidance of pain or the pursuit of pleasure. The avoidance of pain is the bigger one. If something hurts, you want it to stop right away. Like, it's great to have a picture of your ideal future and what life's going to look like in 5 years. That's part of my course too, is identifying that, because you want to know where you're going. But if there's something that's broken right now, like if you can figure out the things that I'm going to do, this positive habit, this is going to fix something for me. And it's a very real pain point. It's something that you deal with every day. Like, that provides incentive and motivation to show up.
So I want to make sure we explain here the relationship between the things you're talking about. So faith-based productivity is the overall brand, and that is the website. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you were to go to faithbasedproductivity.com, you will see the main course. And that one is very much a reflection of my personal belief system. If you were to, right now, I've got two different versions of that course. So I've got that course, which is really about identifying, like, why are you here? What is your unique ability? What is the thing that only you can do? Okay. I think that is the thing for a lot of people that they struggle with, but that is very big picture. Some people spend their entire lives trying to figure that out. So I want to help with that if I can. And then there's a personal retreat handbook, which is a shorter course. It's much smaller. It's kind of a different format. It's really more instructional. Like, this is the way that you would do a personal retreat. That's more practical goal setting for the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, whatever time frame you want to use. It's kind of based off of the 12-week year format. So I do it quarterly. But that's something a little bit separate. And as faith-based productivity grows, kind of the thing that is surprising to me as I get rolling with this is all the ideas that I have for these other courses. So I've mentioned the core values, just to use that as an example. My wife and I identified core values for our family. We've got them framed and hanging on our living room wall, so our kids see them every day. This is what it means to be a Schmitz. Okay, well, people come over and they see that and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that looks awesome. Like, I want to do that for myself. How did you come up with that?" We've got other things that we do with our kids, and so we want to put together a course on just like what we do, because we get asked about it all the time, called the Intentional Family. So that's going to be under the Faith-Based Productivity brand as well, and things like that. It's really not. It's kind of hard for me because I've been in the productivity space so long, and I've approached building courses as like, we need a course on this topic. So I'll go research the topic and I'll figure stuff out, and then I'll create some information. This is a little bit different because it's not like this is the system and the way to do it necessarily, but this is my experience and what I've learned. So you don't have to make the same mistakes I did. It's a little bit different approach to a lot of the productivity stuff that's out there. That's also reflected, by the way, in podcasts that I do with David Sparks. Maybe some people who watch this are familiar with Free Agents. So at the beginning of the year, it's being rebranded and it's going to be called Focused. It's going to be a productivity podcast, and the tagline is "Life is more than cranking widgets." So it's not 3 life hacks to win back an hour a day. It's more about the intentional application of your attention.
Okay. Maybe I'll get you and David on to talk a little bit about that, because that sounds like a very big kind of conceptual thing, as opposed to, like you say, the 1 or 2 or 3 tips to try to make tomorrow better for me.
Yeah, we wanted to do something different and really talk about our experiences and the lessons that we've learned, and show people a very real side to productivity, which is that nobody's got this all figured out and nobody does it perfect all the time. We're talking about New Year's resolutions and habits and things like that. And I've established some habits and it's made some positive results in my own life. But if I'm honest with people, and that's what I want to be, we want to be honest and share the failures as well. Like, I don't always do this. I like to. And once I create a habit, like, that's great. But in the past, I've created courses on, like, this is how you manage your email. Well, right now, because of the state of things, and I don't even know exactly what I need to do. I cranked through it this morning, but I had 700 unread messages in my inbox. I haven't looked at OmniFocus in a while because if I were to sit down and try to plan the whole project, like, I wouldn't even know what to put in there. All I know is that I need to do this next, and I know that's not sustainable. I know that I have to, beginning of this year, I have to do my personal retreat again. I have to get this stuff straightened out and reset the systems. But a lot of people won't share the fact that, hey, this got blown up. And that's what David and I want to share. Is like, because that's been our experience with this. And David's got kind of a unique voice in this space too. I mean, that's one of my entryways into productivity was the OmniFocus videos that he did so many years ago, which were great. And we just want to encourage people that it can be done. And if you mess up once, like, that's not the end of the world. You don't have to do it perfect. You just have to have a growth mindset. When an obstacle appears, like, there's two different ways to view it. The fixed mindset is like, oh, well, this is the wrong path. I better turn around and do something else. The growth mindset is like, okay, this is an obstacle. How do I get over this? One of the books that I really liked by Ryan Holiday is The Obstacle is the Way. So the obstacle is kind of, if you have a growth mindset, it's an indication that you're on the right path. It's just something that you need to overcome before you can continue your journey. I think there's a lot of people like that. And when you get isolated, when you see the Grant Cardones and the Gary V's of the world, and everybody's sharing, like, what's going well, and that's all that you see, you can get discouraged because you're like, oh, my life is nothing like theirs. And we want to help people.
And I really respect you for that, because you're talking about your email, 700 unread emails. And, I up to this point, I hear people talk about inbox zero, and they achieve inbox zero, and all the productivity people have inbox zero. And it's like, okay, I can look at this either two ways. Either you are insane or I'm a failure. I prefer to think you're insane, because it's just, you have a day. For me, I have a day out of the office at a meeting or even a half a day meeting, and there's no way to recover that and start the next day with inbox zero. It just isn't. And I've never been one of those that had to declare email bankruptcy completely. But at the same time, there are times it's pretty tempting to just say, I just need to wipe this out and start over.
Yeah.
So, helping share some of those stories of the failures, what you learn from them, and make people feel better about their failures, which sounds strange, but it really is, I think, of part of the growing process, maybe for you and for us as well.
Yeah, well, failure isn't fatal unless you let it be. Like, it doesn't have to take you out. And that's the thing we want to help with, is that when you do fail, like, how you respond to it is more important than the fact that you failed. And the inbox zero thing, just as an example, I mean, I believe in the philosophy of inbox zero. It would be great if you could zero out your inbox, because then you know that there aren't any open loops and you can kind of disconnect from worrying about that for the rest of the day. You could be more focused on whatever you're doing next. That's ideal. But sometimes, was it Dwight Eisenhower, I think, said, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. Like, that's the principle. Your plan may get completely blown up, and that's okay. But when you try to plan your day, and that's part of the personal retreat course as well, is like planning your perfect week, like the intentional application of how you want things to go, that drastically increases the chances that you are going to achieve it. So in that video specifically, I kind of have like a week view, and I ask people to plan their perfect week. So put on your calendar everything that you want to do, working backwards. So everybody's got 168 hours in a week. Say you sleep 8 hours a night. Wouldn't that be great, right? Well, put it on your calendar first, and then you have a much better chance of it happening. Put in all your commitments, like you're working 40 hours a week, you're doing this, that, and the other thing. You have to maintain the space that you live. You want to get to the gym. You've got your commute, whatever. What people realize after they go through that exercise is that they actually do have quite a bit of time left over. But that 25 hours, that 30 hours, whatever in their week that they don't have assigned to anything gets wasted. That's where you go binge on Netflix. And binging on Netflix is fine if that's what you want to do. But if you're not intentional about it and you get to the end of your week, you're like, oh my gosh, I spent 30 hours binging on Netflix. That sounds ridiculous, but insert your own favorite time waster there. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's video games, whatever. Like, if you're not intentional about the time that you're investing in these things, like, that's where things get out of hand.
And that's such a good word, intentional. That I intend to put out a MacVoices show tomorrow. So what do I have to do to get there, and what realistically can I do it? Can I fit that into all my other obligations? Or is it going to be one of those things of, well, I need to get a show out and it'll get out when I have the time to do it? It's two very different mindsets, I think. And so,
Yep.
And depending on your schedule, it may mean that if you intend to get to that particular goal, you may have to sacrifice something else, be it Netflix or sleep or whatever.
Well, that's the thing. Like, something is going to get sacrificed. So you may as well choose what you put on the altar, because we've got 24 hours in a day, and it doesn't matter how long your task list is. Your day is not getting any longer. So pick the things that are most important and do those things first. And whatever else is not important, like email, just punt it and be okay with that.
This edition of MacVoices is supported by Opsgenie by Atlassian. Opsgenie makes sure that when your next incident occurs, you and your team will be notified quickly and efficiently. No, not all of your team, just the ones who can take care of the problem. But what if they can't? Opsgenie includes a smart combination of scheduling and escalation paths. It gets kicked up to the next level, so more resources can be deployed, and the chances of your customers being dissatisfied goes down. And that's the point, right? Incidents occur. No matter how you try, they happen. What's important is how you respond, and how quickly. And Opsgenie is your solution. It integrates with other apps in your system like Jira, Amazon CloudWatch, Datadog, New Relic, over 200 in all, to make sure that you get the fastest notification possible when something goes wrong. And Opsgenie makes sure that the right people get notified, taking into account things like holidays, shift hours, and time zones, so that your support team is used effectively, but not abused. You can't have your service down for long. Customers start to consider other options when your service is down. Keep your customers happy so you keep your customers. Right now, visit Opsgenie.com, get all the details, and sign up for a free account. That's right, a full free account, not a trial. Then add up to 5 members of your team for free. Right now, all at Opsgenie.com. With Opsgenie, your next incident doesn't stand a chance. Thanks to Opsgenie for their support of MacVoices. And the other challenge, I think, is the world we live in, and I'm as guilty as anybody, of instant gratification. That if something comes up at the office, somebody will knock on the door, walk over to your desk and say, hey, I need you to look at this, or hey, what do you think about this? And your flow of productivity is completely disrupted. And unfortunately, then it's a total distraction. Sometimes you don't even get back to what you were just working on because 3 more things, slide in between, and then you've lost that whole thing. And so, and you can't, unfortunately, go and lock yourself in a conference room or close your office door, but you do need to put some of this stuff on the calendar and put up and basically say, if the building's not on fire, I'll see you in an hour.
The tyranny of the urgent. And that's ultimately why I am okay being quote unquote bad at email. Whether that means I don't check it for a while and I have a bunch of messages in there, or it just means, like, traditionally I haven't checked my email very often. I'll get to inbox zero, but I'm not going to get back to you right away. If you need something, email's not the way to get a hold of me, because email specifically is kind of a to-do list that anybody else can write on. It's a one-way communication method. You can send me an email saying, hey, I need this right away. Okay, well, now I receive that and I have the choice of what to do with that, but it's pretty clear the expectations, like, this is important to you, so I'm going to assume that it's important to me. Not necessarily the case. And with work, maybe you have to do that. I mean, some people specifically, if you're in a sales job, like, email is your job. You have to respond to people. You have to get on proposals, whatever, right away. Be okay with that. I mean, there's not just like, this is the way that you have to do things. Only check your email once a day, yada, yada, yada. Like, maybe that works in some situations. Maybe it doesn't work for you. That's okay. Principle being, though, the intentionality behind how you're spending the hours that are available to you. Because if you just accept everything that everybody has to say in every area of your life, like, you're quickly going to get overwhelmed. And that's where the wheel of life really helps, because I think productivity maybe is applied to a work context too often. Productivity does have its place in your career or in your work, but I would argue it's even more important in your personal life. And personally, I don't believe in the distinction between work-life balance. There's just your life, and it's up to you to balance everything. You're trading when you're working, regardless of whether you are independent, a free agent, or you're working for a company. You are trading your life time for money. So the principle is the same. Like, in budgeting, there's this philosophy: give every dollar a job. Okay, that's what I want people to do with their time. Is give every hour a job. And that doesn't mean, like, if you're going to be productive, you're going to make the best use of that 168 hours, that you're working all the time. Productivity for you may mean that you finally are able to sit down with your family every night and have dinner together. Like, define what success looks like for you, because once you do, then you can achieve that. You just have to be intentional about it. It kind of goes back. I mean, in the productivity space, there's really nothing new. It's all recycled from, like, Stephen Covey and Peter Drucker and probably people before them. But Stephen Covey tells a story that I really like about the professor who has the 1 gallon wide mouth mason jar in front of his class, and he puts some big rocks in it, and he asks his class, "Is the jar full?" And the class says yes. And he says, "Oh, really?" So then he pours in some smaller rocks, and is the jar full? Now they catch on. No. So he pours in gravel, then he pours in sand, then he pours in water. So now, like, the jar is full to the brim, and he says, "What's the point?" Somebody says, "You can always fit more in." He's like, "No, that's not really it. The point is that if you don't put the big rocks in first, you're never going to get them in." And I feel like a lot of people, they don't put the big rocks in. Maybe their big rock is going to the gym every day. Maybe it is consistent family time. But if you don't put them in first, you don't establish the boundaries around the time for those things to happen. That's where whatever else, whether it be work or Netflix, because you're just so stressed out that you get home at the end of the day and you just feel exhausted. You physically can't think about anything else. So you just try to veg out. Like, that's where that stuff gets neglected.
Folks, you got to go check this out, because Mike just said something that I absolutely believe in, and it just, in my mind, it just earns him so much credibility. The idea of the work-life balance, I don't believe in it either. You know, I'm fortunate enough to be one of those guys that loves my work. I love everything I do. And so when people talk about a work-life balance, it strikes me as you're trying to restrict my work, or you're trying to restrict my personal life. And it's all just jumbled together for me. And I really, really appreciate that, because if you're trying to strike a work-life balance, in my opinion, it means that you're in the wrong occupation, and you need to find something that you really enjoy, so you don't feel like you're having to do that. Because that just feels like it creates one more thing, Mike, that I've got to measure this, and I've got to pay attention to this, and if I'm staying at the office late, I'm being bad in some capacity, or I'm being forced to. And it's like, I very seldom leave the office at 5, just because I'm enjoying what it is I'm doing. Yes, there are other things I want to get to that I also enjoy, but don't chain yourself down, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, just identify what's best next and do that.
Yes, exactly. One thing I did want to, this always happens when you and I get together, you know, we take off on different topics, but I'm really intrigued by the faith-based productivity part. because you have to know that there are people out there that are going to respond extremely positively to that description or that title, and then there are going to be those that are a little less enthusiastic about it.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Well, okay, well, they may want to run the other way,
Yeah.
So, but I respect you because obviously you believe in it. But that had to factor into your thinking here. Why did you decide ultimately to go with that kind of description?
Uh, Really, it was just who I am, and it felt not authentic to do anything else. The way I got into the productivity space was I started writing a book, which is available on Amazon, called Thou Shalt Hustle, which was a biblical approach to productivity. That's what got me connected with a lot of the people in the productivity space, was the process of writing that book. So that's always kind of been my origin story, I guess. And then I've learned a lot the last several years about productivity. I've also got a Bible college degree. So I've long been lining up the things that I see in the productivity space and the spiritual principles from the Christian faith behind them in my own head. And then when it came time to do my own thing, I kind of dragged my feet about this for quite a while. It took some people who encouraged me and said, this is definitely going to be a niche. It's not going to be for everyone. But if there is somebody, and I don't even like talking about this myself, but this is what people told me. Is like, if there's one person who could pull this off, it's you. So I've kind of just been okay. And I don't really know what success for this thing looks like. It's just getting off the ground. So response so far has been pretty positive. But really what I want to do is I want to help people who were in the same situation that I was. And so that the faith-based productivity angle to that's really just the process that I've wrestled through, the scriptures that I've studied, the revelation that I've come to, and the principles that I've applied, and just helping people to shortcut that own process for themselves. That's really just like who I am. And I've discovered that when it comes to creating stuff, I can do it, I guess, if I were to try to make it more general, more palatable, I guess maybe is the the right word. Like I could do that, but it doesn't bring me the same satisfaction or the same joy as throwing it out there, even if some people hate it, even if some people are just going to completely disconnect from the principles, which could benefit their lives because it's got the word faith in it, or because they see some Bible verses on the screen, I'm okay with that, because I feel like the people who do identify with that, they're going to identify with it even more, and they're going to really benefit from it. I don't want to present something that everybody watches and only a few people apply. Like if the audience is smaller, but the benefit that I can give people is greater, I want to do that. And so that's really the idea there. And I should say, like, faith-based productivity, that course, that is definitely explicitly Christian. The personal retreat handbook, that's not. That is just basic productivity advice, more practical on how to achieve your goals. So there is going to be some things in here that are going to be more appropriate for a broader audience, but because it's under faith-based productivity, maybe people won't even look at that. I don't know. It just seemed like this is another aspect of who I am, so I should probably build out a video course that shows my process for it.
I respect you for that. Absolutely. It does. It makes you authentic. I mean, it gives you an identity. It gives you a basis on which to be recognized and appreciated. I will pick on Gary Vee, which I have no right to do. But I know I'm a big fan of Gary Vee's work and every speech I've ever seen him make. And I give it to friends or I give it to coworkers, and they say, well, listen, you got to listen to this. This is such a great message. And, unfortunately, some are completely turned off by his appearance and, the cap and the no shave and all. Some are completely turned off by the profanity, and they miss the point. They miss the message. Yep. Because they get so hung up on that. And so I needed to ask that question, because it is a factor when anybody puts themselves out there and how they represent themselves and their project. they recognize it's going to be perceived one way or another before you even get to it. And best that it is authentic, it is really you. You're going to be getting Mike Schmitz, whatever he is that makes him up. That's what you're going to get if you visit this website and take these courses. And not all of them necessarily, as you said, the retreat isn't necessarily faith-based or Christian-based. It's just more productivity. But
Yep.
I really can't tell you how much I respect you for that. And I hope folks will take a look at it. If they feel the need to get past that, then get past it and take a look. And if you don't feel the need to get past it, then just take a look anyway, because it apparently doesn't affect you. But yeah, that's good. I think that's really, really good, because that means that it's something you will be able to sustain and feel good about as you develop it.
Yeah. I have a history of being a people pleaser, which has always led to me being stressed out because I can't please everybody. So I guess, for the last several years, I shouldn't say last several years, it's been a while since I've really struggled with that. But when I did struggle with it, it was almost crippling, because I just wanted everybody to like me. And I got to the point where I couldn't do that anymore. Like, there's some people who just aren't going to like you, no matter if you do everything right or say everything right. Like, they're just, they are who they are. You are who you are. You're incompatible. Once I was okay with that, it was really freeing. And so that's one thing I would encourage other people to do. And really the goal of my course is like, connect to your calling, discover your destiny, live the life you were created for. I really do believe that every person has a unique ability, regardless of your religious belief system. There's something in you that is uniquely you, and it's a gift that only you have. It's something that only you can do. And that's not saying I'm the only one who can make a Christian productivity video course, but anybody else who's going to do it is going to do it differently. They're going to have a different approach to it. I am the sum of my experiences. One of the books that I read was Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. I play guitar and I sing on the worship team at our church. And one of the things I like to do is songwriting. But for a long time, I would write a song and I recognized that I stole the, quote unquote, the chord progression or the melody line from something else. And I'd hear it on the radio and be like, oh man, I just can't create anything. And that book gave me permission to create, because Austin said it in a way that I never thought about it before. He said, when you create something new, all you're doing is connecting dots in different ways that people haven't done it before. And from that point on, basically, I've made it my goal to collect as many dots as possible. It's why I do the Bookworm podcast with Joe Bulig. Every 2 weeks, we read a personal development, self-help type book and talk about it on a podcast. We have action items, so we hold each other accountable to what we said we were going to do. And if other people listen to it and get benefit from it, which a lot of people have, like, it's great to hear how they're benefiting from listening to our discussion about these books. But when we started, it was just, we don't even care if anybody listens, because we want to read these books and we know that this is something that we need to do. We need to collect more dots, and it's not happening. So let's hold each other accountable. And I've collected a lot of dots, and Austin Kleon would say, whatever comes out of those dots, like, it's really not up to me anyways. It's just the natural evolution or progression of the dots that I've collected. And so being okay with that, it kind of makes creativity like a formula. And so I don't have to worry necessarily, if you view it that way, you don't have to worry about the results. The results kind of take care of themselves. It's the same idea with habits, to bring it this full circle to the beginning of the episode here, where if you do these things every day, the results are going to take care of themselves. You don't have to worry about it. You're going to lose the weight if you show up every day and exercise.
Yeah. Or whatever it is.
Yep. Yep.
We all have those days we don't want to get out of bed and you don't feel like going to work. And those are the days that you find out just, who you are and what you are made of, because you get up, you go. And sometimes those end up being the best days. It's funny how that happens, but those are the days like I really didn't want to get up, and I just want to go roll back over and go to sleep. But once you get there, I don't know, it refocuses you or something. So.
Yeah, and when you do it, when you conquer the the circumstances or the feelings that are trying to prevent you from taking the action that you know you're supposed to do, it does something inside of you. It's like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Same idea with training or sports or whatever. Like you practice doing the right thing, and then when it's game time, when your back's really up against the wall, you're able to do it successfully. And every time you do that, you get a little bit more confidence. You get a little bit more resolve. You believe that you can do it a little bit more. I forget who said it, but they said it a way much more eloquently than I could. Is like we aren't born with a steel backbone. We have to forge that ourselves. And every time that you take the right action, you overcome the resistance. Stephen Pressfield would call it. You know, that's forging that steel backbone. And then pretty soon, you know, after you do it enough, you are the type of person who just does the right thing and is successful because you develop these successful habits. And so, because you do these successful habits every day, success is inevitable. You don't even have to think about it.
Yeah. So right now, FaithBasedProductivity.com.
Yep. That's for the course. If you go to courses.faithbasedproductivity, you'll see both the main course and then also the personal retreat course. The personal retreat course, as we're recording this, is actually included with the main course along with 2 different coaching calls as part of a pre-order. That's going to go away as soon as the videos are done. I dragged my feet on recording this with you because I wanted to make sure that the videos were going to be done. And it looks like they'll be done by the time of the workshop, which is going to be January 5th. So the workshop is completely free. It's basically a goal-setting workshop. I'll talk through and show the process, a lot of the stuff that we talked about today. I'm going to do an hour webinar basically and just walk people through that process to help them not be part of the 92% that will not accomplish their New Year's resolutions this year, but part of the 8% that do. So that's completely free. And that the URL for that is faithbasedproductivity.com/workshop to save your spot for that.
Okay, great. So the website's live. The courses are live. I'm glad we brought up the January 5th webinar is free to sign, but you need to sign up for it.
Yep. Yeah, and the webinar, it's basically capped at whatever the webinar software has for participants. So I don't think it's going to fill up, but if you do sign up, then you make sure that you're in, and then I'm planning on giving out a video replay for people who can't make it. Like I know you said you're going to be at CES, so just sign up, Chuck, and I'll send you the replay.
Okay, you got it. So folks, let's prove Mike wrong. Let's fill it up for him. Let's get out there and sign up. And hey, even if you can't be there, then you can get the replay. There was one other thing I wanted to make sure we touched on. So, the new podcast with David Sparks, or the Free Agents rebranded. It'll be called Focused, and it becomes Focused after the first of the year.
Correct. And if you are already subscribed to Free Agents, the feed is going to transfer over automatically. So you'll just get the new artwork and the new podcast. So if you were to sign up for it before that goes live at the beginning of the year, you can go to relay.fm/freeagents. But then at the beginning of the year, it's going to be called Focused. And it's going to be about, the tagline is "Life is more than cranking widgets." So It's going to be a little bit different take on productivity, like we talked about today.
Right.
So if you tried productivity podcasts in the past and you've been turned off by some of that stuff, you may want to give Focused a shot.
Well, and especially you hear Mike here, you know David Sparks from being here, and he and I also served on the Mac Roundtable for a long time. Both great guys, both really know what they're doing. Different approaches to things, which to me is going to be interesting to see how that develops and what happens with it.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
You know, I'd love to wish you luck with this new project, but I don't think I need to, because it's going to be successful automatically. There's no doubt in my mind. It's just a matter of which direction you decide to take it. But you have a name in the productivity space and the tech space that is well respected, and I know that people are going to come and follow you and pay attention and hopefully learn a whole lot of things from you to make their lives better, whether it's faith-based or not.
Thank you. Yeah. And if you want to see the Apple stuff, I'm still doing that too. So I'm still making videos over at Screencasts Online. In fact, I'm starting to do some of the tip videos as well, which is fun.
Don's working hard.
Yep. And I also do some writing over at the Sweet Setup, which is Sean Blanc's site, where we pick the best. The stuff I pick is mainly productivity apps. So like I just finished a review on the best third-party email app for the Mac, another one on the best habit tracker for iOS. So if you're listening to this and you're inspired to try to establish new habits, go look at some of the apps that I mentioned in that article. So if you don't want the faith-based stuff and you just want the Apple Tech stuff, I still do that too.
Perfect. One last thing you mentioned, and we were joking to some degree, but maybe not so much, that email might not be the best way to find you. What's the best way to get in touch with you? Social media or through the Faith-Based Productivity site, or what?
Well, I didn't really mention this, but with the Faith-Based Productivity, either of the courses, I also am setting up like a discourse forum. So people who purchase the course and need some help, number one, they can help out each other because we're all on this journey together. But number two, if you need some assistance, you can reach out to me that way. So that is going to be, I'm still working on dotting the I's and crossing the T's. It's up, but it comes with the courses. Social media would probably be the other place to do it. I'm really just on Twitter, at Bobblehead Joe. I'm on there more than any productivity expert probably should be.
Another reason I love you. You're honest. Mike, it's always a pleasure. This has been a particular pleasure as we see this get off the ground. And we'll be watching, and you're welcome back anytime to talk about it. And if you don't call me, I will call you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Folks, I really mean it. I hope you will go check this out. I hope you will sign up for the webinar and see what Mike can do for you. I know I've always enjoyed his tips and his thinking, and I really do believe that it can make a big difference for you as we head into the new year. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our MacVoices Facebook group and get more out of your Apple Tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us at patreon.com/MacVoices and join these folks who help keep MacVoices coming to you. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.